All right, today we're going to talk about lesson 46, which is trig functions and their reciprocals. So a quick reminder from geometry last year, trigonometry is a study of any right angles. A trig ratio takes two sides of a right triangle and compares them. So it's a ratio between two sides. And then we're going to use this triangle and I'm going to define our trig functions for us. Just a quick reminder, your hypotenuse is always across from that right angle. So our three main trig functions are sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine will always be, again, of one of these acute angles. So we will never take the sine, cosine, or tangent of our right angle. It always has to be one of the acute angles. So sine of A is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I use SOHCAHTOA to help remember that. Just a nice little acronym. S stands for sine, O is opposite, H is hypotenuse, C stands for cosine, T is tangent. So if we go to look at a couple examples, here's our triangle. You're given all three sides. If you weren't given a side, you could use Pythagorean theorem to solve for a side. But if we're asked to find sine of A, we would come over here to A and find our opposite over a hypotenuse, which would be 32 over 40. That can simplify to 4/5. Okay, cosine of A would be adjacent over hypotenuse, so 24 over 40, which simplifies to 3/5. Tangent, opposite over adjacent, would be 4/3. And then if we went to switch our angle and found cosine of B, we would find, it would be 32 over 40, which again simplifies to 4/5. So those three trig functions hopefully are review. Here we're going to look at the reciprocal trig functions. So we have the cosecant, and cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So we abbreviate cosecant CSC. That's 1 over sine, which means now our fraction flips. So now it's hypotenuse over opposite. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So 1 over cosine, that's hypotenuse over adjacent. It's abbreviated SEC. And then cotangent is a reciprocal, excuse me, of tangent, abbreviated COT, and that's adjacent over opposite. So I have another triangle that we are going to try to find some missing side lengths or some missing trig ratios. So if we want to find the cosecant of B, we're using angle B. Cosecant, remember, is the inverse of sine. So it would be hypotenuse over opposite. So 26 over 10, which simplifies to 13 over 5. The secant of B is now the inverse of cosine. So we're looking for hypotenuse over adjacent. Well, 26 over 24 simplifies to 13 over 12. And then cotangent is the inverse of tangent. So it would be adjacent over opposite, which would be 24 over 10 simplified to 12 over 5. So make sure you get these fractions and then don't forget to simplify them. Okay. If you're given a triangle that looks like that and you're asked to find a missing side, you are always going to use the angle that they give you, the acute angle that they give you. Don't ever go from that 90-degree angle. So using this 42-degree angle, we have to decide what two sides are given to us. Okay, well, that x is opposite of our angle, and 32 we know is our hypotenuse. So knowing that we have our opposite side and our hypotenuse, we have to decide which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse, which is sine. So we set up this proportion. Sine of 42 equals our opposite side over our hypotenuse, so x over 32. And now we solve this proportion by cross multiplying and dividing. Well, we would cross multiply 32 times sine of 42 and then divide by 1, which is just the same as 32 times sine of 42. That comes out to be roughly 21.4. It's really, really important that you have your calculator in the degree mode and not radians because we're dealing with degrees. I would like you guys to find the x value given this triangle.